Just a quick warning before you get into this video, I am going to show pictures of infected genitalia. If that grosses you out, you have been forewarned. Hello there, my name is Jeff. Now, genital human papillomavirus, or HPV, has over 100 different strains. Over 40 of those can infect the genital areas as well as the back of the mouth and throat. Some types develop genital warts, and these are called low-risk types, while others may cause cell changes that lead to cancer, and these are called high-risk types. Now, if you look at this chart here, you'll see that HPV is the most common STI out there, with a number that is so large that they couldn't make this model to scale, otherwise it would blow the competition out of the water. Now, mind you, this is from the CDC in 2008, but the numbers are still pretty substantial. Keep in mind that over 90% of people infected with HPV don't experience any negative symptoms, and it goes away on its own after about a year or two, but they can still transmit it to other people. Just to clarify, HPV is not the same as human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV. Now, their acronyms both start with an H and end with a V, but they are not the same thing. So how do people get HPV? Well, HPV is most commonly spread through vaginal and anal intercourse, but it can also be spread through oral intercourse, as well as contact between genitals. Now, most people don't realize they have HPV, and this is due to the fact that any strain that doesn't cause genital warts doesn't have any visible symptoms, but they can still be transmitted nonetheless. Even genital warts doesn't always display symptoms, but it's still transmittable during that stage. Something to keep in mind is that strains that cause genital warts, or low-risk types, don't cause cancer, and high-risk types don't cause genital warts. But that doesn't mean you can't have both at the same time.
Oh, come on!
HPV can also be transmitted through hand touching. That means if you touch someone's infected genitals and then touch your mouth or genitals, you could contract HPV. But there have been no recorded cases of inanimate objects transmitting HPV. Very rarely, HPV can be transmitted through childbirth. Now, this will result in the infant growing warts on both the inside and outside of their body, causing lifetime complications. Well, enough of that, on to signs and symptoms. Now, sadly, there isn't much to say in regards to signs and symptoms of HPV. I've said everything I really could say earlier. If you have genital warts, it's going to be a fairly obvious sign, but not everyone displays those signs and symptoms, but can still transmit it. And if you have a cancerous strain, you're not going to have any signs, and if you are having signs of cancer, you've got bigger problems on your hands. Potential health problems. HPV is known to cause cancers of the cervix, as well as less common cancers of the vulva, vagina, penis, anus, and oropharynx, which is mouth and throat cancers. Genital warts, which can appear weeks or months after initial infection, can go away on their own, remain unchanged, grow in size, or grow in number. Rarely, low-risk types of HPV can cause recurrent respiratory papillomatosis, otherwise known as RRP, which is where warts grow in your throat and can creep down to your lungs, causing hoarse voice and trouble breathing. Let's talk prevention! So, condoms, while wonderful against other viral and bacterial STIs, are far less effective against HPV as it's a skin-to-skin transmitter. So unless you're in a full-body condom, you're kinda out of luck. Suddenly New Jeff. So the first part of this video was made a few months ago, all the information is still relevant. I'm remaking the end because I wasn't happy with the information I had on HPV vaccines. I've done a bunch of research since then, and I'm ready to tackle this. So there's a lot of controversy surrounding vaccines right now with the whole measles outbreak in Disneyland. Generally, my thought is spend 10 minutes, go to cdc.gov/vaccines, and no problem. People are being pretty ignorant and it's kind of infuriating. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. There is currently no cure for HPV. You can deal with the warts and the cancer as you would normally, but you can't deal with the disease itself. Hence why this vaccine is so important. It deals with types 6, 11, 16, and 18, the most common strains that are linked to warts and cancers. So I was pretty confused as to how the HPV vaccine worked. I went and talked to one of my professors and they laid it down to me like this. You've got your cells with its receptors on the outside and your HPV virus that really wants to just come in there and stick to the cell's receptors with its own protein receptors. So for the vaccine, they just shave off the virus's protein receptors and throw those into your body in the vaccine, and your body builds up a response to those receptors. It's like, no, don't like those things. And then when a virus actually gets into your body with those receptors, it's like, wait, I've seen you before. We're not doing this. And so that's basically it. It's pretty simple. effective, and awesome. Another cool thing about the vaccine is that if you already have a strain of HPV and you get the vaccine, you can still become resistant to those strains that are, in the vaccine. So hooray, huzzah, awesome. Now, there is some problems regarding the cost of the vaccine. So you get the vaccine spread out in 3 shots. You got your initial shot, your second shot 1 to 2 months after the first one, and your third one 6 months after the first one. Each shot is going to cost about $130, coming to a total of about $390. So there are a few ways to pay for this, not out of pocket. There's a bunch of different organizations like Planned Parenthood that might pay for the shot or help you find other people that will help pay for the shot. If you go to cdc.gov, I put a link in the description of this video. If you're under the age of 18, then you can also get the shot for free, and there's just a few other ways. You just gotta do a little bit more extra work. But my insurance covered it, most insurances are going to cover it. So some other issues people have with the vaccine is that it's only produced by 2 companies, American company and GlaxoSmithKline. The idea that they're kind of cornering the market. That's scary to people. But those companies, if you check out Donald McNeil's New York Times article, they are releasing the vaccine for under $5 a shot to impoverished countries. So that's pretty sweet. And if you don't live in an impoverished country, like I mentioned before, there's a bunch of other ways to pay for this. The second issue people have with it is they're afraid that if their child gets an STI, or sexually transmitted infection vaccine, which is what HPV is, that their child would become promiscuous. This is backed in nothing, and is kind of confusing as to why it's still an argument, but that's all I'm going to really say on it. And that's all, folks. If you want to know more about HPV or its vaccine, you can go to a bunch of links in the description I have. I primarily pulled from cdc.gov/HPV. A lot of good information there. I also got this cool little handout when I went in for my vaccine. Got a bunch of information on vaccines as well as the HPV vaccine itself. If you want more sex ed content, you can check out my video on masturbation I made, or you can go to Lacey Green's channel. She was the inspiration for me to start making videos like this. Really just kind of a cool person. Now, if you have an idea for me to make a video in the future, please leave a comment, tweet, email me. I'll check it, maybe make it. If it's a short question, I'll probably, just respond back to you or answer it in the next video I make. So, thanks for watching. Ciao.